In the heart of the galaxy, the United Galactic Federation, UGF, had long been a beacon of peace and prosperity. For centuries, the UGF had governed the myriad star systems with a blend of diplomacy and military might, ensuring that the diverse species of the galaxy coexisted in relative harmony. However, beneath the veneer of tranquility, whispers of unrest had begun to circulate. On the distant planet of Xerath, a rebellion was brewing, and it threatened to shatter the fragile peace that the UGF had worked so hard to maintain. The UGF's elite force, the Warborn Heralds, were the galaxy's last line of defense. Genetically enhanced from birth, these soldiers were the epitome of physical and mental prowess. Trained in the most advanced combat techniques and equipped with cutting-edge technology, the Warborn Heralds were designed to be the ultimate warriors. Their mission was clear: to quell any threat to the UGF's authority and ensure the safety of the galaxy. Captain Ilara stood at the helm of the Heralds, her piercing blue eyes scanning the holographic display that hovered before her. Her face, marked by years of rigorous training and countless battles, betrayed no emotion as she reviewed the intelligence reports. The reports spoke of a growing rebellion on Xerath, led by a mysterious figure known only as Kel. The details were sparse, but one thing was clear: Kel's forces were gaining ground, and the UGF's local garrison was struggling to contain the uprising. Ilara's second-in-command, Lieutenant Jackson, approached her with a look of concern. "Captain, the situation on Xerath is deteriorating. The local forces are overwhelmed, and a rebellion is spreading. We need to act quickly." Ilara nodded, her mind already racing with strategy. "Gather the team. We need to be ready to deploy within the hour. This could be the first of many battles to come." As the heralds assembled in the briefing room, Ilara addressed them with a calm yet commanding presence. "We've been called to Xerath. The rebellion there is growing, and it's our job to put an end to it. We don't know much about their leader, Kale, but we do know that he's managed to rally a significant number of supporters. This won't be an easy mission, but it's one we must undertake." The heralds listened intently, their expressions a mix of determination and resolve. They were no strangers to danger, and each of them had faced countless challenges in their training. Among them was Zora, the team's expert in stealth and reconnaissance; Rylan, a master of close-quarters combat; and Mira, the brilliant strategist who had a knack for outmaneuvering even the most formidable foes. As the briefing concluded, Ilara dismissed the team to prepare for their mission. She turned to Jackson, her eyes reflecting a mix of determination and concern. "This could be the start of something bigger, Jackson. I have a feeling that what's happening on Xerath is just the tip of the iceberg." Jackson nodded, his expression grave. "We'll be ready, Captain. The heralds are at their best when the stakes are highest." With that, the team dispersed, each member heading to their respective stations to prepare for the journey ahead. The ship's engines hummed to life, and the heralds boarded their advanced starship, the _Starlight_, ready to embark on their mission. As the _Starlight_ made its way through the vast expanse of space, Ilara couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The reports had hinted at a mysterious signal emanating from Xerath, one that had caught the attention of the UGF's intelligence division. It was a faint, almost imperceptible signal, but it suggested that there was more to the rebellion than met the eye. Ilara decided to investigate further. She called Zara to her quarters, her mind already racing with possibilities. "Zara, I need you to look into that signal we intercepted. It could be the key to understanding what's really going on down there." Zara nodded, her eyes narrowing in focus. "I'll get on it right away, Captain. If there's anything to be found, I'll find it." As Zara set to work, Ilara returned to the bridge, her mind filled with questions. Who was Kale, and what was his true agenda? And what did the mysterious signal mean? The answers to these questions could very well determine the fate of the galaxy. The journey to Xerath took several days, during which the heralds prepared for every possible scenario. They reviewed their training, honed their skills, and strategized for the battles ahead. Tensions were high, but the team's camaraderie and trust in one another kept morale steady. Finally, the day of arrival came. As the Starlight descended through Terath's atmosphere, the team could see the chaos that had taken hold of the planet. Fires burned in the distance, and the sounds of battle echoed through the air. The UGF's local forces were visibly strained, their defenses crumbling under the relentless assault of the rebels. Ilara's heart sank as she took in the devastation. This was far worse than she had anticipated. But there was no time for doubt. The Heralds had a mission to complete, and they couldn't afford to fail. As the Starlight landed in a makeshift base on the outskirts of the rebel-controlled territory, Ilara and her team disembarked, ready for battle. They were greeted by the beleaguered UGF commander, Captain Dax, who looked relieved to see them. "Captain Ilara, thank the stars you're here," Dax said, his voice strained. "We've been pushed back to the last line of defense. The rebels are relentless, and we're running out of options." Ilara nodded, her expression resolute. "We'll do everything we can to turn the tide, Captain. Let's see what we're up against." Dax led them to a command center, where holographic displays showed the current state of the conflict. The rebels had taken control of several key cities and were advancing rapidly. It was clear that they had a well-organized force, far more formidable than the UGF had anticipated. As Ilara studied the maps and data, Zora approached her with a look of urgency. "Captain, I found something. The signal we intercepted, it's a coded message. It's being broadcast from a hidden location within the rebel-controlled territory." Ilara's eyes widened. "Can you trace it?" Zora nodded. "Yes, but it won't be easy. The rebels have some kind of advanced technology that's masking its origin. I'll need to get closer to get a precise location." Ilara considered the information for a moment, then made her decision. "We need to know what that signal is. Zara, you and Rylan will infiltrate the rebel territory and find the source of that signal. Jackson, Mira, and I will lead the main assault on the rebel stronghold. We need to buy you some time." With the plan in place, the Heralds split into two teams. Zara and Rylan moved stealthily through the shadows, using their advanced cloaking technology to avoid detection. Meanwhile, Ilara, Jackson, and Mira led the main assault, charging into the heart of the rebel stronghold. The battle was fierce, with both sides fighting with everything they had. The rebels were well-trained and determined, but the Warborn Heralds were relentless. Their advanced technology and superior training gave them an edge, but the rebels fought back with a ferocity that surprised even the seasoned heralds. As the battle raged on, Zara and Rylan made their way deeper into the rebel territory. They moved with precision and speed, their senses heightened by their genetic enhancements. Finally, they reached a hidden facility, buried beneath the surface of the planet. Inside, they found a room filled with advanced technology, the source of the mysterious signal. Zara quickly set to work, her fingers flying over the control panel. "I'm tracing the signal now. It's being broadcast from a central hub. But there's something else here. A data core. It contains information about the rebellion's plans and their leader, Kale." Rylan nodded, his eyes scanning the room for any signs of danger. "We need to get this information back to Ilara. It could be the key to ending this rebellion once and for all." With the data core in hand, Zara and Rylan made their way back to the surface, their hearts pounding with urgency. As they emerged, they were met with the sight of the ongoing battle. The Heralds were pushing the rebels back, but the fight was far from over. Ilara saw them approach and nodded in acknowledgement. "What did you find?" Zara handed her the data core. "It contains everything we need to know about the rebellion. Cal's plans, his allies, and his true intentions. This could turn the tide of the battle." Ilara's eyes gleamed with determination. "Then let's make sure it does." With the new information in hand, the Heralds launched a coordinated assault on the rebel stronghold. Using the data core's intel, They targeted key locations and disrupted the rebels' command structure. The tide of the battle began to turn in their favor, and the rebels were pushed back. As the dust settled, the assault on the rebel stronghold had been a brutal affair. The Warborn Heralds, with their superior training and advanced technology, had managed to push the rebels back, but the victory had come at a steep cost. The battlefield was littered with the debris of war, and the air was thick with the acrid smell of smoke and burnt flesh. Despite their enhanced abilities, the heralds were not immune to the horrors of combat. Each of them bore the marks of the battle, both physical and emotional. Captain Ilara stood amidst the chaos, her eyes scanning the horizon. The initial assault had been successful, but she knew that the fight was far from over. The rebels, led by the enigmatic Kale, had proven to be far more formidable than anticipated. Their tactics were cunning, and their resolve unyielding. As the heralds regrouped, Ilara couldn't shake the feeling that they had only scratched the surface of the rebellion. Lieutenant Jackson approached her, his face grim but resolute. "Captain, we've secured the stronghold, but the rebels are retreating in an organized manner. They're not beaten yet." Ilara nodded, her mind already racing with strategy. "We need to find out more about Kale and his plans. That data core Zara retrieved should give us some answers." Zara, who had been analyzing the data core, looked up from her console. "Captain, I've decrypted some of the information. It appears that Kale has been gathering support from various factions across the galaxy. He's not just a local rebel leader, he's part of a larger movement." Rylan, the team's close-quarters combat expert, frowned. "So this isn't just about Exarath. It's something bigger." Mira, the strategist, chimed in. "If Kale is part of a larger movement, then we need to understand their goals. The data core should have more information on their plans and objectives." Ilara nodded. "Zara, keep working on the data core. We need to know everything it contains. In the meantime, we need to secure the stronghold and prepare for a counterattack. Kale won't give up easily." As the heralds worked to fortify their position, Zara continued to delve into the data core. Hours passed, and the tension in the room grew palpable. Finally, Zara looked up, her eyes wide with discovery. "Captain, I found something. Kel's forces are planning a major offensive. They have a secret weapon, something that could turn the tide of the war." Ilara's eyes narrowed. "What kind of weapon?" Zara hesitated, her expression grave. "It's a prototype energy weapon, capable of devastating entire cities. They plan to use it to cripple the UGF's defenses and gain control of key strategic locations." Rylan clenched his fists. "We can't let that happen. We need to find and destroy that weapon." Mira nodded. "We need to launch a preemptive strike. If we can locate and disable the weapon, we can prevent a major catastrophe." Ilara considered their options. "Zara, can you trace the location of the weapon?" Zara nodded. "I can narrow it down to a specific region. It's hidden in a heavily fortified facility, but I can provide coordinates." Ilara made her decision. "We'll split into 2 teams. Zara and Rylan will lead a covered operation to locate and disable the weapon. Jackson, Mira, and I will hold the stronghold and prepare for Kel's counterattack. We need to move quickly and decisively." With the plan in place, the heralds sprang into action. Zara and Rylan gathered their gear and prepared for the covert mission. Their enhanced abilities would be crucial in infiltrating the heavily fortified facility. As they set off, Ilara couldn't help but worry about the dangers they would face. The journey to the facility was fraught with peril. Zara and Rylan moved through the night, using their advanced cloaking technology to avoid detection. The terrain was treacherous, and the rebels had set up numerous traps and defenses, but the heralds were undeterred, their focus unwavering. Finally, they'd reached the facility, a massive structure hidden deep within a mountain range. The defenses were formidable, but Zara's expertise in infiltration allowed them to slip past the outer perimeter undetected. Inside, they found a labyrinth of corridors and rooms, each more heavily guarded than the last. As they navigated the facility, they encountered numerous rebel soldiers. Ryland's combat skills were put to the test as they engaged in fierce hand-to-hand combat, taking out the rebels with precision and efficiency. Zara, meanwhile, used her hacking abilities to disable security systems and gather crucial intel. Their journey took them deeper into the heart of the facility, where they finally located the prototype energy weapon. It was a massive device, housed in a heavily fortified chamber. Zara quickly set to work, her fingers flying over the control panel as she attempted to disable the weapon. "Ryland, cover me," Zara said, her voice tense with concentration. Ryland nodded, his eyes scanning the room for any signs of danger. "I've got your back." As Zara worked, a sense of urgency filled the room. The rebels were bound to discover their intrusion soon, and time was running out. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Zara let out a sigh of relief. "I've disabled the weapon. It won't be able to fire." Ryland nodded, a rare smile crossing his face. "Good work, Zara. Let's get out of here before the rebels figure out what's happened." As they made their way back through the facility, alarms began to blare, signaling their presence. The rebels launched a desperate counterattack, but Zara and Ryland fought their way through, their enhanced abilities giving them the edge they needed to escape. Back at the stronghold, Ilara and her team had been preparing for Kel's counterattack. The rebels had launched a fierce assault, but the Heralds' defenses held firm. As Zara and Ryland returned, they brought with them the news of their success. Ilara's face lit up with relief. "You did it. The weapon is disabled. That should buy us some time." Jackson nodded, his expression grim. "But Kel won't give up. We need to be ready for anything." Mira studied the battlefield, her mind racing with strategy. "We need to strike at the heart of the rebellion. If we can capture Kel, we can end this conflict once and for all." Ilara considered the plan. "It's risky, but it might be our best chance. We need to find Kel and bring him to justice." With the prototype weapon disabled and the stronghold secure, the Heralds prepared for their next move. The battle for Xerath was far from over, but they had taken a crucial step in turning the tide. As they looked to the future, they knew that the road ahead would be fraught with danger, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The Warborn Heralds stood united, their resolve unshaken. They were born for battle, and they would fight to the end to protect the galaxy. The rebellion had shown its hand, and now it was time for the Heralds to strike back. The victory at the rebel stronghold had been hard won, and the Warborn Heralds were bruised but unbowed. The disabling of the prototype energy weapon had bought them some much-needed time, but Captain Ilara knew that Kel would not be deterred. The rebellion was far from over, and the Heralds needed to uncover the true extent of the threat they faced. As the team regrouped, Zara continued to analyze the data core she had retrieved. The information it contained was vast and complex, but it held the key to understanding Kel's plans and the larger movement he was a part of. The Heralds needed answers, and they needed them quickly. Ilara gathered her team in the command center, their expressions a mix of determination and fatigue. "Zara, what have you found?" Zara looked up from her console, her eyes reflecting the gravity of the situation. "Captain, the data core contains a wealth of information. Kel is indeed part of a larger movement, one that spans multiple star systems. They call themselves the Galactic Liberation Front, and their goal is to overthrow the UGF and establish a new order." Ryland frowned. "A new order? What do they want to replace the UGF with?" Zara shook her head. "The details are fragmented, but it seems they believe the UGF is corrupt and that they can create a better system. They have supporters across the galaxy, including some high-ranking officials within the UGF itself." Ilara's eyes narrowed. "Traitors within our own ranks. This is worse than we thought." Jackson nodded. "We need to find out who these traitors are and neutralize them. If they're feeding information to the rebellion, we're fighting with one hand tied behind our backs." Mira, the strategist, chimed in. We also need to understand the GLF's true capabilities. The prototype weapon was just the beginning. They must have more advanced technology and resources at their disposal. Ilara considered their options. Zara, keep digging into the data core. See if you can find any information on their technology and key operatives. Jackson, I want you to lead a team to investigate any potential traitors within the UGF. Mira and I will plan our next move against Kale and the GLF. With the plan in place, the Heralds sprang into action. Zara delved deeper into the data core, her hacking skills uncovering hidden layers of information. She discovered blueprints for advanced weaponry, plans for strategic attacks, and a list of key operatives within the GLF. Most alarming of all, she found evidence of a secret alliance with a powerful corporation, the Intergalactic Trade Consortium, ITC. The ITC was known for its vast wealth and influence, but their involvement in the rebellion was unexpected. Zara's findings suggested that the ITC was funding and arming the GLF, using the rebellion as a pawn to destabilize the UGF and seize control of the galaxy's resources. Ilara's eyes widened as Zara presented her findings. The ITC. This changes everything. They have the resources to fuel a full-scale war. Jackson's expression darkened. We need to hit them where it hurts. If we can cripple the ITC, we can cut off the GLF's supply lines and weaken their position. Mira nodded, but the ITC's headquarters on Cygnus Prime is heavily fortified. It won't be easy to infiltrate. Ilara made her decision. We need to take the fight to the ITC. Zara, Rylan, and I will lead a covert mission to infiltrate their headquarters and gather more intel. Jackson and Mira, you'll coordinate our defenses here and prepare for any counterattacks. With the plan set, the Heralds prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. The journey to Cygnus Prime would be fraught with peril, but they had no choice. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. As the Starlight made its way through the vast expanse of space, the Heralds reviewed their strategy. The ITC's headquarters was a fortress surrounded by layers of security and defenses. Their enhanced abilities would be crucial in infiltrating the heavily guarded facility. Finally, the Starlight arrived in orbit around Cygnus Prime. The planet was a bustling hub of commerce and industry, but beneath its surface lay the heart of the ATC's operations. Ilara, Zara, and Rylan disembarked, their hearts pounding with anticipation. The trio moved stealthily through the city, using their advanced cloaking technology to avoid detection. The ITC's headquarters was a towering skyscraper, its surface gleaming with advanced technology. As they approached, they could see the layers of security in place: automated turrets, surveillance drones, and heavily armed guards. Zara took the lead, her hacking skills allowing them to bypass the outer security systems. I've disabled the perimeter defenses. We need to move quickly before they detect us. Rylan nodded, his combat senses heightened. Let's go. The trio slipped inside the building, their movements precise and coordinated. They navigated through the labyrinthine corridors, taking out any guards they encountered with silent efficiency. Zara's hacking abilities allowed them to disable internal security systems, while Rylan's combat skills ensured they remained undetected. Finally, they reached the heart of the ATC's operations, a massive control room filled with advanced technology and data terminals. Zara quickly set to work, her fingers flying over the control panels as she accessed the ATC's core systems. "Captain, I'm in," Zara said, her voice tense with concentration. "I'm downloading all the intel I can find. This will give us a clearer picture of their operations and plans." Ilara nodded, her eyes scanning the room for any signs of danger. "Hurry, we don't have much time." As Zara worked, Rylan kept watch, his senses on high alert. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility, signaling their presence. The ITC's security forces launched a desperate counterattack, but the Heralds were ready. Rylan engaged the guards in a fierce hand-to-hand combat, his enhanced abilities giving him the edge. Ilara covered him with precision shots from her advanced weaponry, taking out any threats that got too close. Zara continued to download the intel, her fingers moving at lightning speed. Finally, with the data transfer complete, Zara looked up. "I've got everything we need. Let's get out of here." The trio fought their way back through the facility, their enhanced abilities allowing them to overcome the ITC's defenses. As they reached the exit, they could see the ATC's security forces closing in. With a final burst of speed, they made it to the _Starlight_ and launched into space, narrowly escaping the ATC's grasp. Back on the _Starlight_, Ilara reviewed the intel Zara had retrieved. The information was staggering. Detailed plans of the ATC's operations, lists of key operatives, and evidence of their involvement in the rebellion. Most importantly, they had discovered that the ITC was planning a massive assault on the UGF's capital planet, Terra. Ilara's eyes narrowed. "We need to warn Terra. The ITC's attack could be catastrophic." Jackson nodded. "We'll send a message to the UGF fleet. They need to prepare for the incoming assault." Mira studied the intel, her mind racing with strategy. "We also need to plan our next move. The ITC's involvement means this conflict is far from over." Ilara considered their options. "We need to strike at the heart of the ATC's operations. If we can cripple their headquarters, we can weaken their position and buy us some time." With the intel in hand, the Heralds prepared for their next mission. The journey to Terra would be fraught with danger, but they had no choice. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and the Warborn Heralds were ready to fight to the end. As the _Starlight_ made its way through the vast expanse of space, the Heralds stood united, their resolve unshaken. They were born for battle, and they would fight to protect the galaxy. The ITC's involvement had changed the game, but the Heralds were ready to meet the challenge head-on. The journey to Cygnus Prime had been a perilous one, but the Warborn Heralds had emerged victorious. The intel retrieved from the Intergalactic Trade Consortium's (ITC) headquarters was a game-changer. It revealed the extent of the ITC's involvement in the rebellion and their plans for a massive assault on Terra, the UGF's capital planet. The Heralds knew they had to act quickly to prevent a catastrophe. As the _Starlight_ made its way back to the UGF's territory, Captain Ilara gathered her team in the briefing room. The atmosphere was tense, but the Heralds were focused and determined. "We have the information we need to stop the ITC and the GLF," Ilara began. "But we need to move fast. The ITC's assault on Terra could happen at any moment." Lieutenant Jackson nodded. "We need to warn the UGF fleet and prepare for the incoming attack. Terra's defenses must be reinforced." Mira, the strategist, chimed in. "We also need to plan our next move against the ITC. Their headquarters on Cygnus Prime is a crucial target. If we can cripple their operations there, we can severely weaken their position." Ilara considered their options. "Zara, I want you to send a secure message to the UGF fleet with the intel we retrieved. Warn them about the ITC's plans and advise them to reinforce Terra's defenses. Jackson, you and Mira will coordinate with the UGF's command to prepare for the incoming assault. Rylan and I will lead a covert mission to strike at the heart of the ATC's operations on Cygnus Prime." With the plan in place, the Heralds sprang into action. Zara quickly sent the secure message to the UGF fleet, detailing the ITC's plans and urging them to reinforce Terra's defenses. Jackson and Mira began coordinating with the UGF's command, sharing the intel and strategizing for the incoming assault. Meanwhile, Ilara and Rylan prepared for their covert mission. They knew that the ITC's headquarters on Cygnus Prime was heavily fortified, but they were determined to succeed. Their enhanced abilities would be crucial in infiltrating the heavily guarded facility. As the _Starlight_ approached Cygnus Prime, Ilara and Rylan geared up for the mission. They donned their advanced combat suits, equipped with cloaking technology and enhanced weaponry. Their mission was clear: infiltrate the ATC's headquarters, gather more intel, and sabotage their operations. The journey to the ATC's headquarters was fraught with danger. The city of Cygnus Prime was a bustling hub of commerce and industry, but beneath its surface lay the heart of the ATC's operations. Ilara and Raylan moved stealthily through the city, using their cloaking technology to avoid detection. The ITC's headquarters was a towering skyscraper, its surface gleaming with advanced technology. As they approached, they could see the layers of security in place: automated turrets, surveillance drones, and heavily armed guards. Zara's hacking skills had provided them with a detailed layout of the facility, and they used this information to navigate through the labyrinthine corridors. Their movements were precise and coordinated, their senses heightened by their genetic enhancements. They encountered numerous guards, but Ryland's combat skills and Ilara's precision allowed them to take them out silently and efficiently. Finally, they reached the heart of the ATC's operations, a massive control room filled with advanced technology and data terminals. Zara's intel had been spot on. This was the nerve center of the ATC's activities. Ilara quickly set to work, planting explosives to sabotage the facility's core systems. Ryland kept watch, his senses on high alert for any signs of danger. As Ilara finished planting the explosives, she nodded to Ryland. "Let's get out of here. We've done what we came to do." Ryland nodded, his eyes scanning the room one last time. "Let's move." The duo made their way back through the facility, their enhanced abilities allowing them to evade the ATC's security forces. As they reached the exit, they could see the ITC's guards closing in. With a final burst of speed, they made it to the _Starlight_ and launched into space, narrowly escaping the ATC's grasp. Back on the _Starlight_, Ilara and Raylan reviewed the mission's success. The sabotage of the ATC's headquarters would severely weaken their operations and buy the UGF valuable time. But they knew that the ITC would not go down without a fight. Ilara contacted Jackson and Mira, who were coordinating the UGF's defenses on Terra. "Jackson, Mira, the mission was a success. The ITC's headquarters on Cygnus Prime has been sabotaged. Their operations will be severely disrupted." Jackson's voice came through the comms, relief evident in his tone. "That's great news, Captain. The UGF fleet is preparing for the incoming assault on Terra. We've reinforced the defenses, and we're ready for the ITC's attack." Mira added, "We've also identified key operatives within the ITC and the GF. We're planning targeted strikes to neutralize their leadership and disrupt their command structure." Ilara nodded, her mind already racing with strategy. "Good. We need to stay one step ahead of them. The ITC's assault on Terra will be their biggest move yet, but we're ready for them." As the _Starlight_ made its way to Terra, the Heralds prepared for the upcoming battle. The ITC's assault would be fierce, but the UGF was ready. The Heralds had bought them valuable time, and now it was up to the UGF fleet to defend their capital planet. Ilara stood on the bridge of the _Starlight_, her eyes fixed on the approaching planet. Terra was the heart of the UGF, and its defenses were crucial. The Heralds had done their part. Now it was up to the UGF fleet to hold the line. As the ITC's fleet approached Terra, the battle began in earnest. The UGF's defenses were strong, but the ITC's forces were relentless. The skies above Terra were filled with the roar of starships and the flash of energy weapons. The Heralds, aboard the _Starlight_, joined the fray, their advanced ship and skills making a significant difference in the battle. Ilara coordinated with the UGF fleet, her tactical mind working quickly to outmaneuver the ATC's forces. The battle was intense, with both sides suffering heavy losses. But the UGF's defenses held, and the ITC's assault began to falter. As the battle raged on, Ilara received a message from Jackson. "Captain, we've identified the ATC's flagship. It's leading the assault. If we can disable it, We can turn the tide of the battle. Ilara nodded. Understood. Rylan, Zara, Mira. We're going to launch a strike on the ATC's flagship. This is our chance to end this. The heralds prepared for the assault, their hearts pounding with anticipation. They knew the risks, but they were ready to face them. As the _Starlight_ approached the ATC's flagship, they launched a daring assault, their advanced ship and skills giving them the edge they needed. The battle for the ITC's flagship was fierce, but the heralds fought with everything they had. They infiltrated the ship, taking out guards and disabling key systems. Finally, they reached the bridge, where they confronted the ITC's commander. Ilara stood face to face with the ITC's leader, her eyes reflecting her determination. "This ends now," she said, her voice steady. The ITC's commander sneered. "You think you can stop us? The ITC's influence spans the galaxy. You can't win." Ilara shook her head. "We already have. Your operations on Cygnus Prime are crippled, and your assault on Terra has failed. The galaxy will be free from your tyranny." With a final burst of effort, the heralds disabled the ITC's flagship, turning the tide of the battle in the UGF's favor. The ITC's fleet began to retreat, their assault thwarted. Back on Terra, the UGF celebrated their victory. The heralds were hailed as heroes, their bravery and skill having saved the galaxy from a catastrophic assault. But Ilara knew that the fight was far from over. The ITC's influence was vast, and they would surely regroup and strike again. As the heralds stood on the surface of Terra, looking up at the stars, Ilara reflected on the cost of war and the sacrifices made. The galaxy was safe for now, but the Warborn Heralds were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They were born for battle, and they would fight to protect the galaxy, no matter the cost. The skies above Terra were a chaotic symphony of explosions and laser fire as the ITC's assault reached its peak. The United Galactic Federation's, UGF, defenses were stretched to their limits, but the Warborn Heralds, led by Captain Ilara, were at the forefront of the resistance. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and every second counted. Ilara's heart pounded in her chest as she coordinated the UGF fleet's defenses from the bridge of the _Starlight_. The ITC's flagship loomed large on the horizon, a symbol of the enemy's might. But Ilara knew that the key to victory lay in disabling that very ship. She turned to her team, her eyes reflecting a mix of determination and urgency. "Raylan, Zara, Mira, we need to launch a strike on the ATC's flagship. This is our chance to turn the tide of the battle," Ilara said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. Raylan nodded, his combat instincts already kicking in. "We'll take out their command structure. Without their leader, the ITC's forces will be disorganized." Zara, the team's tech expert, added, "I'll hack into their systems and disable their defenses. That should give us the opening we need." Mira, the strategist, chimed in, "We'll need to move quickly and strike with precision. The ITC's flagship is heavily fortified, but we can exploit their weaknesses." With the plan in place, the heralds prepared for their daring assault. The _Starlight_ maneuvered through the intense firefight, evading the ATC's relentless attacks. As they closed in on the flagship, Zora's hacking skills came into play. Her fingers flew over the console, and within moments, she had disabled the flagship's outer defenses. "Defenses are down," Zora reported, her voice tense with concentration. "We have a window." Ilara nodded. Now, the _Starlight_ pierced through the ITC's defenses, landing on the flagship's deck with a resounding crash. The heralds disembarked, their enhanced abilities allowing them to move with speed and precision. They encountered fierce resistance from the ITC's elite guards, but Ryland's combat skills and Ilara's tactical acumen gave them the edge they needed. As they fought their way through the flagship's corridors, the heralds encountered numerous obstacles: automated turrets, force fields, and heavily armed soldiers stood between them and their target, the bridge. But the heralds pressed on, their determination unwavering. Finally, they reached the bridge, where the ITC's commander awaited them. He was an imposing figure, his eyes cold and calculating. "You think you can stop us?" he sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "The ITC's influence spans the galaxy. You can't win." Ilara stepped forward, her eyes reflecting her resolve. "We already have. Your operations on Cygnus Prime are crippled, and your assault on Terra has failed. The galaxy will be free from your tyranny." The ITC's commander laughed, a cold, mirthless sound. "You underestimate us. We have resources you can't even imagine." Before he could finish, Rylan launched a devastating attack, incapacitating the commander. Zara quickly moved to the control panel, her fingers flying over the keys as she disabled the flagship's core systems. "Systems are down," Zara reported, her voice steady. "The ITC's fleet will be disorganized without their leader." Ilara nodded, her eyes scanning the bridge for any remaining threats. "We need to get out of here. The ITC's forces will be in chaos, but we can't stay." As the heralds made their way back to the _Starlight _, the ITC's flagship began to falter. Without their leader, and with their core systems disabled, the ITC's fleet was thrown into disarray. The UGF's defenses, now coordinated by Ilara and her team, began to push back against the ATC's forces. Back on the Starlight Ilara contacted the UGF fleet. "This is Captain Ilara. The ITC's flagship is disabled. Push forward and drive them back." The UGF fleet responded with renewed vigor, their advanced starships and weaponry turning the tide of the battle. The ITC's forces, now leaderless and disorganized, began to retreat. The skies above Terra gradually cleared, and the sounds of battle began to fade. As the dust settled, Ilara and her team stood on the Starlight's bridge, their hearts heavy with the weight of the battle they had just fought. The victory was hard won, and the cost had been high. But they had succeeded in protecting Terra and crippling the ITC's operations. Ilara turned to her team, her eyes reflecting a mix of pride and relief. "We did it. Terra is safe, and the ITC's assault has been thwarted." Jackson, who had been coordinating the UGF's defenses, contacted them. "Captain, the fleet is standing down. The ITC's forces are retreating. You did it." Ilara nodded, her mind already racing with the next steps. "We need to regroup and assess the damage. The ITC won't give up easily, but we've bought the galaxy some time." As the Starlight landed on Terra, the heralds were greeted as heroes. The UGF's leadership hailed them for their bravery and skill, and the citizens of Terra celebrated their victory. But Ilara knew that the fight was far from over. The ITC's influence was vast, and they would surely regroup and strike again. In the days that followed, the UGF began the arduous process of rebuilding and reinforcing their defenses. The heralds, meanwhile, continued their mission, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They had proven themselves as the galaxy's protectors, and they would not rest until the threat of the ITC and the GLF was eradicated. As Ilara stood on the surface of Terra, looking up at the stars, she felt a sense of hope. The galaxy was safe for now, but the Warborn Heralds were ready to fight for its future. They were born for battle, and they would not stop until peace was restored. The victory over the ATC's assault on Terra was a hard-won triumph, but the Warborn Heralds knew that their work was far from done. The Intergalactic Trade Consortium's influence was vast, and they would surely regroup and strike again. As the United Galactic Federation, UGF, began the arduous process of rebuilding and reinforcing their defenses, Captain Ilara and her team prepared for the next phase of their mission. In the days following the battle, the heralds gathered intelligence and coordinated with the UGF's command. They knew that the ITC's defeat on Terra would only be temporary, and they needed to strike at the heart of the consortium's operations. The data retrieved from the ATC's headquarters on Cygnus Prime had provided valuable insights into their plans and key operatives. It was time to turn the tables and launch a counterattack. Ilara gathered her team in the briefing room of the _Starlight _. The atmosphere was tense but focused. We've identified key targets within the ATC's operations. Their influence spans multiple star systems, and we need to cripple their ability to fund and support the rebellion. Lieutenant Jackson nodded, his expression grim. We've pinpointed several key facilities that are crucial to their operations. If we can take them out, it will severely weaken their position. Mira, the strategist, added, we need to launch a series of coordinated strikes. The ITC won't expect a counterattack so soon after their defeat on Terra. We can catch them off guard. Zara, the tech expert, chimed in. I've hacked into their communications and identified several high-priority targets. We can use this intel to plan our strikes. Ilara considered their options. We'll split into teams. Jackson and Mira will lead one team to target the ITC's financial hub on the planet of Aeternum. Zara and Rylan will lead another team to sabotage their research facility on the moon of Elysium. I'll coordinate from the _Starlight _ and provide support. With the plan in place, the Heralds prepared for their missions. The journey to Aeternum and Elysium would be fraught with danger, but they were determined to succeed. The ITC's facilities were heavily fortified, but the Heralds' enhanced abilities and advanced technology gave them an edge. As the _Starlight _ made its way to Aeternum, Jackson and Mira reviewed their mission. The ITC's financial hub was a massive complex, filled with advanced security systems and heavily armed guards. Their goal was to infiltrate the facility, gather intel on the ATC's financial operations, and plant explosives to cripple their ability to fund the rebellion. Mira studied the layout of the complex. The facility is divided into several sectors. We need to disable their central core to disrupt their operations. Jackson nodded. We'll move in under the cover of night. Zara's hacking skills will be crucial in bypassing their security systems. Meanwhile, Zara and Rylan prepared for their mission on Elysium. The ITC's research facility was a high-priority target, as it was the source of many of their advanced technologies. Their goal was to sabotage the facility's core systems and destroy any prototypes that could be used against the UGF. Zara reviewed the intel she had gathered. The facility is heavily guarded, but I've identified several weak points in their security. We can use these to gain access. Raylan nodded, his combat senses heightened. Let's move quickly and strike with precision. The element of surprise will be our greatest asset. As the _Starlight _ approached Aeternum, Jackson and Mira disembarked and moved stealthily towards the financial hub. Using Zora's hacking skills, they bypassed the outer security systems and infiltrated the complex. Their movements were precise and coordinated, their enhanced abilities allowing them to evade detection. Inside the facility, they encountered numerous guards, but Jackson's combat skills and Mira's tactical acumen gave them the edge they needed. They navigated through the labyrinthine corridors, taking out any threats they encountered. Finally, they'd reached the central core, where they planted explosives to cripple the ITC's financial operations. As they made their way back to the _Starlight _ they could see the ITC's guards closing in. With a final burst of speed, they made it to the ship and launched into space, narrowly escaping the ITC's grasp. Meanwhile, on Elysium, Zara and Rylan had successfully infiltrated the research facility. Zara's hacking skills allowed them to disable the facility's core systems, while Rylan's combat abilities ensured they remained undetected. They planted explosives in key locations, targeting prototypes and advanced technologies that could be used against the UGF. As they made their way back to the _Starlight _ alarms blared throughout the facility, signaling their presence. The ITC's security forces launched a desperate counterattack, but Zara and Raylan fought their way through, their enhanced abilities allowing them to overcome the ITC's defenses. Back on the Starlight, Ilara coordinated the team's efforts, her eyes fixed on the mission's success. As the explosives detonated, the ITC's financial hub and research facility were crippled. The Heralds had struck a significant blow against the consortium's operations. Ilara contacted Jackson and Mira, as well as Zara and Raylan. Well done, everyone. The ITC's operations have been severely disrupted. This will buy us valuable time. Jackson's voice came through the comms, relief evident in his tone. We did it, Captain. The financial hub on Aeternum is down. Their ability to fund the rebellion has been crippled. Zara added, the research facility on Elysium is also disabled. They won't be able to develop new technologies for some time. Ilara nodded, her mind already racing with the next steps. Good work, everyone. We've turned the tide, but the ITC won't give up easily. We need to stay vigilant and prepare for their next move. As the Starlight made its way back to Terra, the Heralds reflected on their success. The counterattack had been a crucial victory, but they knew that the fight was far from over. The ITC's influence was vast, and they would surely regroup and strike again. But the Warborn Heralds were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They had proven themselves as the galaxy's protectors, and they would not rest until peace was restored. Ilara stood on the bridge of the Starlight, her eyes fixed on the stars. The galaxy was safer now, but the road ahead was fraught with danger. The Warborn Heralds were born for battle, and they would fight to protect the galaxy, no matter the cost. The counterattack against the ITC had been a resounding success, crippling their financial and technological capabilities. The Warborn Heralds had struck a significant blow, but Captain Ilara knew that the true threat to the galaxy remained. Kale, the enigmatic leader of the Galactic Liberation Front, GLF. With the ITC's influence diminished, Kale had become the face of the rebellion, and his capture was now the Herald's top priority. As the Starlight returned to Terra, Ilara gathered her team for a new mission briefing. The atmosphere in the room was tense but determined. We've disrupted the ITC's operations, but Kale remains a significant threat. He's the driving force behind the rebellion, and we need to bring him to justice. Lieutenant Jackson nodded, his expression grim. We've tracked Kale to a hidden base on the edge of the galaxy, on a planet called Eridanus. It's a remote and heavily fortified location, but our intel suggests that he's there. Mira, the strategist, added, we need to move quickly and decisively. Kale won't stay in one place for long. If we can capture him, we can dismantle the GLF's leadership and end the rebellion. Zara, the tech expert, chimed in. I've hacked into their communications and identified the base's security systems. It's heavily fortified, but I can disable their defenses long enough for us to infiltrate. Raylan, the combat expert, nodded. We'll need to move fast and strike with precision. Kale is a formidable opponent, and his base will be heavily guarded. Ilara considered their options. We'll launch a covert mission to infiltrate Kale's base. Zara and Raylan will lead the assault team, while Jackson and Mira provide support from the Starlight. I'll coordinate the mission from the bridge. With the plan in place, the Heralds prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. The journey to Eridanus was fraught with peril, but the team's enhanced abilities and advanced technology gave them an edge. As the Starlight approached the remote planet, the team geared up for the assault. The planet of Eridanus was a barren and desolate world, its surface scarred by ancient wars and harsh weather. Kale's base was hidden deep within a mountain range, its entrance concealed by advanced cloaking technology. As the Heralds approached, Zara's hacking skills allowed them to bypass the outer defenses and gain access to the base. Inside, the base was a labyrinth of corridors and rooms, each heavily guarded by elite GLF soldiers. Zara and Rylan moved with precision and speed, their enhanced abilities allowing them to evade detection. Rylan's combat skills were put to the test as they engaged in fierce hand-to-hand combat, taking out guards with silent efficiency. Zara's hacking abilities disabled internal security systems, clearing a path for the team. As they navigated deeper into the base, they encountered increasing resistance. The GLF soldiers were well-trained and determined, but the Heralds pressed on, their resolve unwavering. Finally, they reached the central command room, where Kale awaited them. Kale was an imposing figure, his eyes cold and calculating. "You think you can capture me?" he sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "The GLF's cause is just. You can't stop us." Ilara stepped forward, her eyes reflecting her determination. "Your rebellion has caused untold suffering. It ends here, Kale." Kale laughed, a cold, mirthless sound. "You underestimate us. The GLF's influence spans the galaxy. Even if you capture me, others will rise to take my place." Before he could finish, Rylan launched a devastating attack, incapacitating Kale. Zara quickly moved to the control panel, her fingers flying over the keys as she disabled the base's core systems. "Systems are down," Zara reported, her voice steady. "The GLF's forces will be disorganized without their leader." Ilara nodded, her eyes scanning the room for any remaining threats. "We need to get out of here. The GLF's forces will be in chaos, but we can't stay." As the Heralds made their way back to the _Starlight_, the GLF's base began to falter. Without their leader, and with their core systems disabled, the GLF's forces were thrown into disarray. The UGF's defenses, now coordinated by Ilara and her team, began to push back against the GLF's remaining forces. Back on the _Starlight_, Ilara contacted the UGF fleet. "This is Captain Ilara. Kale has been captured, and the GLF's base on Eridanos is disabled. Push forward and drive them back." The UGF fleet responded with renewed vigor, their advanced starships and weaponry turning the tide of the battle. The GLF's forces, now leaderless and disorganized, began to retreat. The skies above Eridanos gradually cleared, and the sounds of battle began to fade. As the dust settled, Ilara and her team stood on the Starlight's bridge, their hearts heavy with the weight of the battle they had just fought. The victory was hard won, and the cost had been high, but they had succeeded in capturing Kale, the face of the rebellion, and crippling the GLF's operations. Ilara turned to her team, her eyes reflecting a mix of pride and relief. "We did it. Kale is in custody, and the GLF's base is disabled. The galaxy is safer now." Jackson nodded, his expression grim but resolute. "We've dealt a significant blow to the rebellion, but the fight is far from over. The GLF's influence is vast, and they will surely regroup and strike again." Mira studied the intel they had gathered, her mind racing with strategy. "We need to consolidate our gains and prepare for the next phase of the conflict. The GLF's defeat on Eridanos will buy us some time, but we must remain vigilant." Zara added, "We also need to continue gathering intel on the GLF's remaining operatives and supporters. With Kale captured, they will be vulnerable." Ilara nodded, her mind already planning their next moves. "We'll regroup and assess the damage. The ITC's defeat and Kal's capture have weakened the rebellion significantly, but we must stay one step ahead. The galaxy's future depends on it." As the Starlight made its way back to Terra, the Heralds reflected on their success. The capture of Kale and the disabling of the GLF's base on Eridanos were significant victories, but they knew that the fight was far from over. The GLF's influence was vast, and they would surely regroup and strike again. But the Warborn Heralds were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They had proven themselves as the galaxy's protectors, and they would not rest until peace was restored. Ilara stood on the bridge of the Starlight, her eyes fixed on the stars. The galaxy was safer now, but the road ahead was fraught with danger. The Warborn Heralds were born for battle, and they would fight to protect the galaxy, no matter the cost. The capture of Kale and the disabling of the GLS base on Eridanus marked a turning point in the conflict. The rebellion had suffered a significant blow, and the United Galactic Federation, UGF, began to reclaim lost territories and restore order. The Warborn Heralds, hailed as heroes, were celebrated for their bravery and skill. Yet Captain Ilara knew that true peace was still a distant goal. The GLF's influence was vast, and its remnants would continue to pose a threat. As the _Starlight_ returned to Terra, the Heralds were greeted with a mixture of relief and determination. The UGF's leadership, recognizing the Heralds' crucial role in the conflict, called for a strategic meeting to discuss the next steps. Ilara and her team stood before the UGF's high command, ready to share their insights and plan for the future. Ilara addressed the assembly, her voice steady and confident. The capture of Kale and the disruption of the GLS operations on Eridanus have weakened the rebellion significantly. However, we must remain vigilant. The GLS remnants are still active, and the ITC's influence, though diminished, cannot be underestimated. Lieutenant Jackson added, "We need to consolidate our gains and reinforce our defenses. The GLF will regroup, and we must be prepared for their next move." Mira, the strategist, presented her findings. "Our intel suggests that the GLS remaining operatives are scattered but still dangerous. They are seeking to reorganize and continue their fight against the UGF. We must target their key leaders and disrupt their plans." Zara, the tech expert, chimed in. "I've been monitoring communications and have identified several high-priority targets. With the right resources, we can neutralize these threats and further weaken the GLS position." The UGF's high command listened intently, recognizing the gravity of the situation. After a moment of contemplation, the lead commander spoke. "Captain Ilara and the Warborn Heralds have proven themselves to be invaluable in this conflict. We will provide you with the resources you need to continue your mission. Your next objective will be to hunt down the GLS remaining leaders and dismantle their operations." With the High Command's support, the Heralds prepared for their next mission. They knew that the road ahead would be fraught with danger, but they were determined to see the conflict through to its end. The journey to peace would be long and arduous, but the Warborn Heralds were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the _Starlight_ set course for their next target, Ilara gathered her team for a final briefing. "We've come a long way, but our mission is far from over. The GLS remnants are still a threat, and we need to act quickly to neutralize them. Zara, you'll lead the intel gathering and identify our targets. Rylan, Jackson, and Mira, you'll lead the assault teams. We need to strike with precision and speed." The team nodded, their expressions reflecting their resolve. They had faced countless challenges and emerged victorious, and they were ready for the next phase of their mission. The journey to the GLS remaining strongholds was fraught with peril, but the Heralds pressed on. They targeted key leaders and disrupted the GLS operations, their enhanced abilities and advanced technology giving them a significant edge. Each victory brought them closer to their ultimate goal, the restoration of peace in the galaxy. As the conflict began to wane, the Heralds' efforts bore fruit. The GLS remnants were scattered and disorganized, their ability to wage war severely diminished. The UGF's defenses held firm, and the galaxy began to heal from the scars of war. Finally, the day came when the last of the GLF's leaders was captured, and their operations were dismantled. The galaxy, once on the brink of chaos, began to experience a new dawn of peace and unity. The Warborn Heralds, hailed as heroes, stood as symbols of hope and resilience. Ilara stood on the surface of Terra, looking up at the stars. The galaxy was safer now, and the threat of the GLF and the ITC had been eradicated. The Warborn Heralds had fulfilled their mission, but their journey was far from over. They knew that new challenges would arise, but they were ready to face them. As the _Starlight _ prepared to set course for a new mission, Ilara turned to her team. "We've fought hard and come a long way. The galaxy is safer because of our efforts, but our work is never truly done. We are the Warborn Heralds, and we will always be ready to protect the galaxy, no matter the cost." With renewed determination, the Heralds boarded the _Starlight _ and set course for the stars. The galaxy was entering a new era of peace, but the Warborn Heralds remained vigilant, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They were born for battle, and they would fight to protect the galaxy, no matter the cost.